year. It was more than a year or two ago. I graduated in 2004, and before you think that I'm really old, because I think I was sitting in your seats, maybe listening to speakers who had graduated in the 80s, and yes, I did that math recently. Oh, that is me. This is you. Okay, so in any case, really excited to be here with you today. I was at the Bills game yesterday. Go Bills. It was a great game to be at. Just really great to be back in Western New York. My parents still live here. Born and raised here. And Houghton has a very, very special place in my heart and certainly our family's heart. So thank you for having us. Get this going. So I'm going to talk through a little bit of my bio, definitely sports at Houghton, what was Houghton College, now Houghton University, my career journey, and then I want to really share with you some rules to live by. So as Coach mentioned, a lot of my success has been in the business world, but I'm going to share just a little bit of that with you and really kind of share with you just rules for everyday life that will help you achieve your goals, right? So whether that's if you're a communication major, you're in the tech field, you're in business, you're whatever your major, whatever your passion, I hope that some of these resonate with you today because I think it's really about recognizing, one, our passion, and two, that we're capable of so much more than we think we are. Sometimes it's really getting people in our corner, helping others, things like that go a long way. So we'll talk through a lot of that today. A lot of the pictures you're going to see in here, I've taken myself mostly because I really enjoy the outdoors, and while I'm not an artist, sometimes just taking pictures feels creative and a good outlet, right? So I am no professional, don't judge them, it's fine, but most of them are my pictures. This one happens to be not too far from where we live out in Western Massachusetts, and it just was a day I was driving home from somewhere, and I needed a minute, and I needed to be able to get out in nature and God's creation. You're really, really blessed with that here, right? You can step out your door and you can see God's creation. But I found what's supposed to be dinosaur footprint trail. I didn't find any dinosaur footprints, but I did find this railroad and a river and just God's creation and the beautiful sunshine. All right, so take risks, be adventurous, get outside, literally get outside, because there is something about the wind and the sun that really help you think better, be more creative, and a lot of times just lets the weight of the world drop right off. Sometimes we need that. All right, so this is a little bit older picture of me too, but just want to share a little bit of my bio. I am from a tiny town called Angelica. It's about 25 minutes from here. We always said there was about 1,000 people. I don't know if the population now might be 800. It's not very much, and there's not a stoplight, but there is a basketball court in the center of the park circle. So, spent many a time there. I am the oldest of 5, so if you can imagine learning leadership from a very early age, or a lot of the chores and various things to take care of stuff, you're like, yeah, I got this. So one little story, we all had our specific chores and siblings down, and so different ones got different level of tasks, but when I was 9 years old, we had no dishwasher in our house. Does anybody not have a dishwasher at home? All right, I see you. Okay, good. So this was for a family of 7, and the dishes of the day were in the sink for after dinner for my job. So that's a lot of dishes. And what I got really good at was figuring out how to stack all of those dishes in the strainer, because I did not want to have to dry a single dish, right? So it taught me problem solving from about 9 or 10 years old. They better be clean too. Mom and Dad expected quality, as they should. So they had to be clean. They needed to all be stacked in this mound so I didn't have to dry, and I was done. Anyway, I tell that story sometimes because it actually is one of the things I still rely on today, that I'm able to solve problems by seeing a mess and turning it into a tower. So there you go. All right, so we talked a little bit about my background, coming to Houghton here. Coach talked about that, and then I played sports here. So kind of just a little bit of additional notes there. Really, no matter where you come from, geographically, monetarily, you can really do whatever you put your mind to. My parents are super hardworking. They have great jobs and a life that they've made wonderful out of frugal nothingness sometimes, and they have been so successful. But when I was a kid, I didn't have a new pair of clothes until I was in ninth grade and could work at a summer job so I could buy clothes. Otherwise, I had hand-me-downs. And so sometimes you think like, gosh, I'll never be anything. I barely have the means to get something. But one thing they always instilled in me was no matter how little we had, we always gave. Always. Whatever we could give. So we'd have someone over for Thanksgiving who didn't have means for a meal. We would go work at the church and contribute to a work day or whatnot. No matter how little we had, we didn't really know that we didn't have, I knew I didn't have new clothes, but besides that, I didn't really know I didn't have anything. Because we had love, we had our faith, we had each other, and we always gave. And it really, it fills you up, and it reminds you that you can do just about anything. You can contribute, and you can make success. So, along those lines, as I really hammer on this giving thing, I didn't put it in the rules to live by, but it is absolutely a number one rule to live by. The Bible talks about how it's better to give than receive. And I think we're all like, oh yeah, it's so nice to give, makes people feel good when they give. No, there's an underlying principle here. It's actually a business principle too. If everyone is just taking, there's literally nothing to get, right? So that's why that principle is that it's better to give than receive. If we all give, we're all going to get, right? I have given over and over, and I can't even tell you the amount that has come back. And I'm not giving to get it back, right? Don't hear my heart. But it is better to give than receive, because as we all give, we all get. Okay? All right. So sports taught me a lot about business and life, commitment, teamwork, all those lovely things you always hear about. It really also helped me learn how to lose without being defeated, and how to win with grace, right? So sports have been a big, big part of my life. If you don't play sports, that's okay. Don't tell her, because she's playing soccer again this year. Because I played soccer and COVID really ruined it for her. She didn't want to play with the mask or anything else. I said, Zoe, you have to try it one more time. Do you like it? Yeah. No mask though. All right. So definitely played basketball for Coach Lord. Also played soccer for Coach Lewis. And our team verse was this: whatever you do in word or deed, do all in the name of the Lord Jesus, giving thanks to God the Father through him. And it was our team mantra. And so a lot of times you think like, oh, I'm just playing this sport and I'm working on my studies and I'm going to, my work-study job, or I'm hanging out with my friends. None of this is really spiritual, right? Your entire life is a living act of worship. And if you really can bring that in to your heart a bit, it will help you if you know that in every moment, whether that's training for preseason, whether that is, right now I'm training for a half marathon, it's next weekend. I don't know why, okay? This is the worst thing ever. I'm in so much pain. I have a foot injury, which is why I'm wearing sneakers today. Like, I gotta get through this thing. But all the training is super painful, right? But as I'm doing this thing, if we, even when no one is looking, are giving it our best and trying to glorify God in whatever we do, right? Because I think sometimes, so I have a sister who went on the mission field for a while, and I thought, I can never be her. I will never impact the world like she does. Okay? But every day, no matter what you're doing, if you do it to the glory of God, you are impacting the world. You will impact someone. And instead, what has been happening through my work and various things is, as I am in a meeting, or I say, hey, how are you today? And I start to get to know people and I build relationship, eventually I'm able to actually minister the blessing and the love of Jesus Christ. So don't ever think that the thing that you're part of is too small, or I'm just out here training for this race. Everything you do it to glorify him, and you can't be happier, really. And you'll have a big impact. All right, so we'll get into the career part real quick. So I started out I graduated a semester early, so Chris was finishing up. We were going to get married that summer after college. And I needed to find a job because we were getting married, and I really needed to buy a dress and some things like that. my parents paid for the reception and all that, but I had to take care of several other things. And so I needed a job. And I worked at a place called Beneficial Finance, which in 2004, it does not exist anymore. It was acquired by HSBC Bank many years ago. It also happened to be a subprime lender, but I didn't know that. So 2004, I'm making 50 cold calls a day, trying to get people to refinance their home to 7 to 9% loans. And sometimes, if I was really lucky, I'd get them to take a personal loan at 25%. This was my job. But I was giving it my best. I was paying the bills. So we got married, and by the way, 50 cold calls a day will really teach you a lot about everything. They said, oh, you can transfer, because I was working out in Olean, New York, and I could transfer to West Springfield in Massachusetts. And I was like, I think I'm all set. Thank you very much for that. And instead, Chris's brother, he was happened to be dating someone whose father was a president of a bank, and next thing you know, those connections sometimes just at least open a door for a conversation. And so I started out in banking. And so that was Berkshire Bank. I went through an acquisition, a merger. It was many days pretty challenging and fiery, but through fire you learn a lot. So I spent 2 years there. I was more on the retail side of the bank. So at a branch, I was working with customers. I was an assistant manager. And then decided, excuse me, there was no more real upward mobility because with the bank acquisition, the headquarters were kind of far away. And so I started looking for a job, and I found a management training program at People's Bank. If you ever get the chance to work in an environment that has a management training program, do it. I got a couple weeks of experience in every single part of the bank, and I really learned how, I'm like, oh, that's how we make money. Oh, that's how and why we market this. Oh, but I could also contribute the frontline experience to the back office folks, and so I would share that perspective. They're like, oh, that makes sense, right? So definitely try to pull all the pieces together, learn other parts, and I really got a lot of good experience there. I spent about 8 years there. I'll throw the UMass piece in here. I did my MBA 2007-2008, so I had spent about 3 years working before I started the MBA, and I really think that was helpful to me because I had some real-world experience to combine with the MBA. I was really glad that I did that. So at the bank, so this is where you kind of get time and place, luck. You can say a lot of things, right? Oh, they got really lucky. I did. The iPhone came out. And yes, I'm totally dating myself. I turned 15 this year. But it was in a spot where, in that management training program, I had worked hard every leg of that program, and they recognized that I was capable of doing almost anything they asked me to do if I had a chance to learn it. And so they asked me to manage the website and the bank, and to really start heading up digital strategy and taking everything we could do in a branch, brick and mortar, and bring it online and mobile. And the iPhone really just exponentially flipped that because all of a sudden everybody was trying to do something on their phone. And so that kind of went through that part of the career. So I spent, like I said, about 8 years there heading up digital strategy, had done several things, created a customer innovation lab. The CEO of that bank would just say to me, Karen, we want to do this thing. We don't know what it looks like, but you'll figure it out. Okay, here's that messy pile of dishes. Right? So would dig in, do a bunch of research, talk to colleagues, talk to vendors, look for tech partners. We didn't have any developers in-house at the bank, and so I would look for digital partners that I could work with. And as I did that, checked a lot of boxes, got a lot of good things implemented for the bank, and got to the point where that bank is still very innovative, but they had kind of slowed down a little bit. The CEO retired, and they were focused a little bit more on profits and all that kind of stuff. I'm like, no, we've already done all that. And I was like, you don't understand. Innovation never stops. So, but it stopped for them for a little bit. And that's okay, because I had met some digital vendors that I was like, ooh, it'd be really interesting to work on the tech side of the house. And so I made that transition. One thing, network, network, network. right? Because as I had conversations with those vendors and built good relationship across lines and really treated them as a partner, I did not treat them like crap because they were my vendor, you start to build that rapport, and when an opportunity came about, they called me and I switched over to the tech side. So that's PAYVERIS. I joined the company when there was only 23 people. We're a little over 100 now in our part of the division, and I have 27 on my team. So it's been a fun ride, 5 years, extreme growth, figured it out along the way, super scrappy sometimes, we'll talk about that in a minute. And the company I work for now is PayVeris, because we were acquired, and the name has, just last week, we kind of did away with the PayVeris name. We kept it for a year so the market could understand who we were, and then we just sunset it. So we're now the banking and fintech solutions. All right, so that's kind of the career path. Let's jump into the rules of life, and I'll move these along a little faster. Always, 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 always be curious. So this, and I'm going to go back to it, but this is at Letchworth. Does anybody recognize this? Yeah, lots of people, right? Okay. Well, I had been, this is the Lower Falls, and this was about 3 years ago. I had been to Letchworth many times. I've been to Letchworth when I was Zoe's age. I've been to Letchworth many, many times in my life. But on this day, there was a bridge out. A couple years ago, they had a bridge closed down there. They were repairing some things, so you couldn't go the normal paths to get to the waterfall. So we kind of charted our own course. And what I really love, and here's the notes I put in so we can have it in the slide deck afterward. But I got a shot of that Lower Falls from this angle with this lighting. Came a result of the usual path being closed. Right? Sometimes these doors close on us and we just don't understand. And this is minimal. I can find a new path very quickly, but sometimes it's not clear what the path is. But there's always a reason that the door closes. Okay? But it helped me seek new perspective, ask more questions. You never know what door might open, right? And so if you put this into your, looking for a job or your business or whatever, but every company wants people that are curious, that they're hungry to learn, they're willing to do, and have a positive outlook. When I'm looking to hire people, the people that will raise their hand for, I'll do that, let me try. It's interesting, if you ask that question to me, you say, hey, why does it work like that? Me as a leader, I'm very quickly like, oh, they want to know. I will invest in them. I'm going to tell them now. I'm going to teach you. Someone else that's like, I'm not going to spend my time on that. I have a limited amount of time. But if someone is willing and curious, I will absolutely invest. So raise your hand, be curious. Okay. Oops. Okay, back to the website job just for a minute. So this continues the curiosity thing. So I ended up being one of the first financial institutions in the US to have an iPhone app. But it really came as a result of, our tech provider at the time was going to run a beta for this, and there was 2 banks that wanted to do it. I didn't know this till later on, they told me later on. But they had asked for like our logo and a few things, and I was just like, hurry to get it in, I want to be part of this beta. Well, they didn't let the other bank be the beta because I had gotten everything in first. Sometimes it's not the resources you have, the money you have, sometimes it's about being proactive and getting after it. And we didn't know, but turns out, we were there because, way before anybody else. So, another quick little story, because I'm a big fan of curiosity being, use the products that you sell, all right? So, if that's a physical product, if that's a digital product, when I got into the bill payment space, I'm making sure that I'm using our bill payment product to pay my bills, so I know how that works. So a little story, just out of college, I, would pick up things at CVS or whatnot, and I'm always like, I had like a monthly script I was picking out, and I would drive up, I would park, and I'd see the drive-up line for the CVS, and I'm like, who can't get out of their car to go into CVS, right? But I'm like, okay, maybe someone who literally can't walk, that makes sense. About, I don't know, 28, 29, I had Jaden, and all of a sudden, I had this car seat in the back that weighed like 100 pounds, and it was going to be strapped on, And now I'm like, oh, I need to drive up. I don't want to go in to just quickly grab this script. I want to go through and say, can you give this to me, please? And so the whole moral of that story is to use, you don't always understand the customer experience unless you use the products or use the service or whatnot. And so sometimes it's just getting in someone else's shoes for a minute, right? And experiencing it. So All right, number two rule of your life, find a mentor. Does anybody have a mentor right now? No. Get one, yes, okay. So, this is a picture of my parents' house in Angelica, New York. But if you're lucky enough, your employer, when you're at that point, your employer might have a program. If not, just seek one out. So early on at People's Bank, there was not a formal mentoring program, but I recognized the value of a mentor, and I had even found the person I wanted to mentor me. I was very bold and audacious about that. It's like, her, right there, I want her. But I had seen this woman speaking when we were in a strategic planning session, and the way she would speak up, she was so polished and smart and balanced, and but she was in our commercial lending team. And if you ever work in a bank, everyone will tell you the commercial lenders make the money for the bank. So I was like, she's super successful, she's so polished. And so I went to HR and I said, I really want a mentor and I know who it's gonna be. And they said, okay, we'll ask her. So they did, and she was happy to mentor me, thankfully. She was so gracious, and I learned so much from her over the time. But my point is, if there's a program, great. If there's not, make one. Okay? Just make one, just ask. All right? And we ended up being on a panel at one point at another college by us. We were featured in the article. It just, I can't tell you the value of mentorship. Okay, the next one, 90% is confidence. So many times we think someone has to have a ton of talent to do something. A lot of it is confidence and hard work and all that. So if you look at this is in Watkins Glen, and I guess I lost, no, it's here. It's the Gorge Trail in Watkins Glen, I can see down below, right? This is only 3 to 5 feet wide. Has anybody been to Watkins Glen? It's out in central New York, okay, near Cornell and all that. It's incredibly narrow in most parts. Look at this picture for a second. Look how narrow this is. But this water cut through, right? This should have been impossible, right? But it's hundreds of feet deep, the water cut through. So, winning a sale, landing a job, many successes in life come from a place of having confidence, first and foremost. If you think it's impossible, it's gonna be impossible, right? If you have confidence, you will cut through, all right? The next piece, and this is where I need Zoe Grace. Come here, baby. Okay. What I always tell you to say, right? Can you do it? Okay. That's okay. Can I hold you up? You can get in the microphone. All right. So, we have to speak life about ourselves, right? So, quite often this one gets a little anxious about things, right? She gets a little nervous. Sometimes she doesn't think she can do it. But what do we say? I am smart. I am strong. I am bold. I'm brave. I'm beautiful. Okay? You speak life. Speak life. And when you know it, as I've been doing my training for this half marathon, every week you have to increase your mileage. A couple weeks ago, she said, but Mom, it's only 1 more mile. It's only 1 more mile than last week. You're right. 9 miles feels like a lot, but it's only 1 more mile than 8. And she said that to me. Last weekend, I had to get up and do 12 miles, and she comes running in. I didn't think she was going to wake yet. She comes running into my bathroom. Good luck. Speak life. Speak life to yourself. Speak life to those around you. And now she's speaking life to me, right? Okay. You can do anything. Cut through those rocks. Okay, and another part about confidence, we're all worried about what everybody else thinks about us. Stop. They're not thinking about you. They're thinking about themselves. Okay? All right, I thought this was so good. But sometimes we don't have confidence because we're not sure, what are they going to think about me? Who cares? Okay, all right. Outwork everyone else. Zoe asked me, she said, Mommy, wasn't that gross? Okay. Okay, full disclosure, I'm standing on about 15 layers of cardboard boxes, trying to get them down in there, okay? So there's nothing gross on my feet or my legs or anything like that. I did have to hike myself up in there, okay? But this came at an early time in PAYVERIS. Remember when I said I was hired at a company that only had 23 people? That meant we also had budget for nothing. So when we expanded our building, I actually got put in charge of the renovation, and I had to figure out a way to take X amount of dollars and outfit a whole new area of our building. only about 75% of it had to go to the contractors who were ripping down the walls and things like that. So I had to come up with like office furniture and conference tables, and I painted walls myself, and I went to IKEA and I built stuff, and I had friends, like coworkers helped, but like we just got creative, right? And so some of this came from all the chairs we built. We had to put the boxes. So, but I show you this because hard work will beat talent any day. So over the weekend we just watched Rudy. Who has not seen Rudy? It's a movie about a football player in Notre Dame. Okay, it is available on Amazon Prime for like $3.99. Get it. Have a watch party. I'm not even joking. It's an old movie, and I was like, yeah, I've seen it before. I'm telling you, I was on the couch like, oh my gosh, I can out of do something. It was so exciting and so invigorating, and he has so many challenges, but he overcomes. He overcomes. So, and one of the key lines in the movie over and over is so his older brother is super smart and talented, but has like an okay attitude. Rudy is not talented and not smart and not athletic, but his heart outweighs all of it. And so they always said, like, if the older brother had half the heart that Rudy did, like, how amazing could he be, right? So anyway, I don't care what your skill set is, heart will win any day. And if you happen to be super talented, I mean, you're just winning the lottery, so, with the hard work. All right, so the picture here, I use this picture because one of the first days on the job at PAYVERIS, our CEO was taking out the trash. And I was like, what are you doing? Well, first of all, the 23 people, the no budget, our cleaner came in the office 1 day a week. There's more trash than 1 day a week cleaner, so someone had to take out the trash. But the CEO was the one doing it, and I was just like, well, next week, I took out the trash. Someone would let the CEO do it. But he was leading by example, and he was leading with empathy, and, you know, whatever has to get done, no job is below me, right? And when you do that, the people around you start to get on board, and they start to be like, oh, well, if they're doing that, I can help with this, you know? So it's not so much about the trash, but just remembering that no job is below you, no matter your level. Okay. All right. You are who you hang out with, okay? This is a nice little ice storm in Belchertown, Massachusetts, where we used to live. But basically, if you think about the proximity principle, that you are the product of the 5 people closest to you. Okay? So some say, you know, if you're the smartest in your circle, change the circle. I don't think you need to totally change your circle. I'm not telling you to get new friends, but maybe expand your circle. If there is someone in your circle that's really bringing you down, maybe spend a little less time with them, right? You are the product of the 5 people you hang out with the most. Okay. All right, another rule. Rule number 6, change your perspective. See the big picture. This is just from one of our local little Moonland fair, but we're up in one of the Ferris fields there. But when you're down low, all you can see is like the games or whatever part you're at, right? You change your perspective, okay? So there's a little analogy here. 3 people are digging a ditch. First one says, I'm digging a ditch. Yes, you are. That is quite literal. The second one says, I'm building a foundation wall. They have started to see the next step, right? They're starting to think a little strategically here. But the third one says, I'm building a hospital. Vision, right? So sometimes it's just your perspective. It helps you actually get through that menial task of digging in the ditch. The mundane things won't seem so bad when you're working towards a purpose. And I have another picture to illustrate this. This is me pregnant with our older son, Jaden, who's 11. He had to go back for a football game this weekend, but so that's Chris, if you couldn't tell. And there's this cornfield behind us, right? In this picture of us, aside from my big belly starting to pop out, what do you see? Corn, right? So this is a perspective that came to me about a year ago. I was helping mentor someone. I was like, no, you can't see the forest or the trees. What does that mean? If I am walking in the woods, I see trees. If I go above them, it's like green. I don't get that. I don't get that analogy, right? So, but all of a sudden, this made sense to me. When I'm in this cornfield, all I see is corn. I'm seeing what's right in front of me. I'm seeing the basic, whatever. But going above, we were actually in this maze, and it looked like the Campbell soup can. Wow. Now that forest makes sense to me. Now I can see the big picture, right? So sometimes you just have to get yourself up a little bit in perspective, right? Look at the big picture. All right, rule number 7, I'm almost done, promise. Okay. So this is my family this summer at Acadia National Park. We have climbed the Beehive Loop Trail. We wanted to do the precipice. For anybody who's ever been to Acadia, my mother's parents have climbed the precipice. Thank you. It was closed. Some kind of birds were nesting and falcons were nesting. We couldn't disturb the falcons. So this was the next best trail we were excited to try. Well, this looks like a beautiful picture, right? This is what people post. This is what goes on social media. Look at that. It was so easy, right, Zoe? It was so easy.
Not at all.
All right, wait for it. Well, my rule is to enjoy the process, okay? And don't just post for the mountaintop. All right. What you don't see, the path to get there was incredibly difficult. Some of these are our pictures, as you can see Zoe there, barely hanging on, trying, like sometimes the rungs of the ladder were too far or too, Chris had to like lift her at times. I'll preach. But it can be scary. It's super hard work. My legs were shaking. I mean, and a lot of times you're actually at the edge where, you know, the path is no wider than this podium right here. And what's right there is not. I mean, it's hundreds of feet down, right? Perhaps some more rocks that you could hit your head on, but there is nothing there. And many places, as you can see, I don't know if this cursor will show, but some of those places, it was just the metal ladders into the side of the rock, because it was literally the only way to scale the rock. There was no other way to get there. So you have to, like, so many times I'd be hanging on and not letting go till you got to the next. You know, it was very scary. And Zoe was nervous. I was nervous. Jada would check back. Mom, are you okay? I'm more nervous because you guys are here. Like, it was very scary. But then you get to the top. So anyway. The path can twist and turn, but do what scares you, okay? Do what scares you. Don't just post the mountaintop. Remember the process. Learn from the process. Embrace the process. Embrace the hard work. Embrace the scariness, okay? Because you will get the mountaintop, which is totally worth it. All right. This is my last story. It is not a rule to live by. I just want to wrap it up with this. In this day and age, this could just be my experience. I don't know. I tend to work in a male-dominated environment in tech, and you could look at this a couple ways. You can look at this from a feminist perspective, and we need more women at the table. I do agree with that. I also agree there are a lot of good men at the table, so I'm not really going there. But what tends to happen is people want to step on each other to get to the spots, and we don't have to do that. We can literally all get there. Stephen Covey said it. We looked it up this morning. JFK also said it. Rising tide lifts all boats. That was another one of those, like, forest through the trees. It's like, rising tide boats. Okay. But it's true. I don't need to sink somebody else's ship for my ship to float, right? Okay? So here's a little story. We're skiing. It's President's Day last year. Zoe's skiing. Zoe's an okay skier, but she's still... She's an amazing skier. She's learning. Her brother, who's 2 years older than her, has no fear, but his skiing is also learning. And so we had gone with another friend, so we kept having to alternate lifts. So at one point, I'm on a lift with Zoe, and she's a little down and out because she's feeling intimidated by the mountain. She's not sure if she's having a good time. And I say, Zoe, you know what I'm recognizing today? I think you're actually, like, possibly better than your brother at skiing. Wrong thing to say. She told her brother. Yeah, so on the next lift, didn't know this. He is down and out, and he is never down and out. My son is a go with the flow, happy-go-lucky, not a care in the world, and he's like, Gina, what's wrong? Well, it's just really hard when someone who's younger than you is better than you at something. Oh, hold up. Because I told your sister something to give her confidence and to enjoy the day. And now she took you down. Okay, great. So let me tell you a little something. And Business Executive 101 went into full-on, like, power mode. And I was like, don't you dare ever let someone else's talent take away from your talent. So we started talking about this. This is all on the lift, go on up the mountain. And I said, this can happen to us in business sometimes, particularly as we're trying to climb the ladder, as we're trying to succeed. It's very easy to want to say, well, I'll just push them down and make me better. It doesn't make you better. It makes you above where you push them down to. It doesn't actually bring you any higher, right? So as I talked to Jaden and Zoe both, I said, Jaden, you want your sister to be good at skiing. You really need her to be good at skiing so that we can go to the Black Diamonds. None of us are going up there if she can't do it, right? It's like the weakest link in the chain, right? We weren't going. We all got to be qualified to go to the Black Diamonds, and you're going to die. But the point of this story, I ended up sharing it with my leaders on my team the following week, because sometimes as we're a growing company, we'll have new people come into the company, and all of a sudden the people that are on the team are like, oh, it's really hard when someone who's newer than me, younger than me, is better than me. Who cares? We want our team to be amazing, and we want our company to grow, and we want to all succeed. And just because they're good doesn't make me any less. In fact, they just upgraded my circle, so now I'm better. Right? So anyway, let's go to the Black Diamonds, right? Let's all go together, let's give, let's encourage each other, let's have confidence. Really nothing can stop you, only your heart.